I never imagined I would get involved in secret projects again after my retirement. I spent years away from that world, trying to adapt to a quiet life, far from danger. However, when I received a call from Dr. Holloway, there was something in the urgency of his voice that made me stop. He wasn't asking, he was ordering, though with a sense of desperation I couldn't ignore. "You're the only person qualified for this, Marcus," he said. "We don't have a choice. We need you." Reluctantly, I agreed. Doubts lingered as I was escorted through layers of security into an underground complex. The location felt more like a fortress than a scientific facility. At the center of a cavernous hangar, I saw the object that seemed to be the reason for my summons. A massive, rectangular structure, pulsating with a faint, almost hypnotic glow. It wasn't metal, nor was it stone. Perhaps it was both. The material defied simple classification, its undulating, luminous surface resembling embers under ashes. Holloway greeted me with a tense smile. He looked exhausted, dark circles accentuating his pale complexion. "Welcome back to the game, Marcus. We need you now more than ever." I approached the structure, intrigued. "What exactly is this?" I asked. "We're calling it the obelisk for now," he replied, gesturing for me to follow him into an adjacent room filled with monitors and scientific equipment. The screens displayed surreal landscapes, glowing forests, seas of liquid light, and skies in constant motion. These images were captured by probes sent through the obelisk, he explained. "We discovered it at a remote archaeological site. For decades it seemed inactive, but a few months ago it woke up." "Woke up?" I repeated skeptically. "Yes. Every 12 hours, it activates and opens some kind of portal. We still don't know what's on the other side, but we know it's significant. Readings indicate it's not another location on Earth." My heart raced. I wasn't easily impressed, but this was different. "Do you have any idea what might be on the other side?" Holloway hesitated, his gaze fixed on one of the monitors. "We know it's inhabited," he said at last. "We've sent probes and drones. Some of the captured images show life forms and structures that defy any known reference, but most of the equipment fails quickly." "So you want me to go through it?" I asked, crossing my arms. "We need someone with your experience, someone who can adapt quickly and bring back answers. You know we don't have another option." I was silent for a moment, observing the mysterious structure. It seemed to call out to me, as if it knew I was there. Part of me wanted to refuse, but something greater, curiosity perhaps, had already made the decision for me. "Afterward, prepare the equipment," I said finally. "I'll go through." Time seemed to slow as I approached the obelisk. The structure pulsed softly, almost as if it were alive, radiating a warmth that contrasted with the cold air in the hangar. The constant hum emanating from its surface seemed to resonate within my bones, a sound felt more than heard. Despite being away from situations like this for years, my body instinctively shifted into a state of heightened alertness. A young assistant approached me, carrying a device that resembled a vest, bristling with sensors. "This will monitor your vital functions and transmit real-time data. You may feel slight discomfort when we activate it, but it's temporary," he explained, adjusting the connectors along my torso. "Let's just get this over with," I muttered, trying to steady my nerves. When the device activated, a faint current ran through my body. It wasn't painful, but definitely uncomfortable. Holloway appeared at my side, holding a tablet. He looked visibly tense. "Marcus, you have 10 hours before the obelisk deactivates again. If you don't return by then, you'll have to wait for the next cycle. Understood?" "Understood," I replied, though my sweaty palms betrayed my apparent confidence. A part of me questioned the sanity of this decision, but it was far too late to turn back now. With a sharp nod, Holloway signaled the operators. The environment changed instantly. The sound in the hangar deepened, as if the air itself were being compressed. The obelisk began to glow more intensely, waves of light flowing across its surface like liquid. The hum grew almost deafening, and then the center of the structure simply disappeared. It was as though reality had been torn open, revealing something beyond comprehension. What I saw on the other side defied logic. It wasn't just a landscape. It was a world of colors I had never seen, shapes that made no sense to the human mind. Something inside me screamed to retreat, but my feet moved forward. Crossing the portal was an indescribable experience. As I stepped through, it felt like my body was being disassembled and reassembled, atom by atom. Lights and shadows swirled around me, and a biting cold invaded every cell of my being. Finally, everything stopped, and I was enveloped in absolute silence. I opened my eyes and realized I was in another world. The sky was a deep shade of blue, with golden patches slowly drifting across it. Towering trees with crystalline leaves surrounded me, their branches refracting light like prisms. The ground beneath my feet shimmered faintly, covered with a type of moss that glowed softly when I stepped on it. I grabbed my communicator. "Holloway, can you hear me?" There was a brief delay before his voice came through. "Connection stable. We're receiving your readings. Are you okay?" "For now, yes," I replied, my eyes scanning the strange environment. "This is stranger than I imagined." The landscape seemed alive, reacting to my presence. Every step I took carried an invisible weight, as though something unseen was watching me. As I continued forward, the sensation of being watched grew stronger. The landscape around me felt alive, with the vegetation seemingly responding to my movements. The crystalline leaves emitted a faint glow as I passed, almost as if they were trying to communicate. The ground beneath my boots had an elastic texture, unlike anything I had ever encountered. The air, though breathable, was dense, carrying a sweet yet metallic aroma. In the distance, I spotted a monumental structure rising above the horizon. Towering spires and spirals connected by floating bridges defied gravity. The architecture was undeniably alien, yet there was an intentionality to its design that suggested intelligence. I couldn't tell if it was an invitation or a warning. "Holloway, can you see this?" I asked, aiming my camera at the structure. There was a delay before his response. "Yes, Marcus, we're receiving the image. Keep moving, but be cautious." I didn't need the warning. The place exuded a palpable energy, making each step feel like a calculated decision. I continued toward the structure, my breath heavy with nervous anticipation. As I approached, I realized that the main entrance was immense, composed of a material that seemed to pulse with life. The walls were etched with intricate symbols, an apparent language I couldn't decipher. Some of the markings glowed softly, reacting to my presence. I reached out and touched one of the carvings with my fingertips. The surface was warm, almost pulsating like a heartbeat. My communicator crackled with static, and a sharp pain shot through my head. I stepped back, disoriented. "Something's interfering with my equipment," I murmured into the communicator, hoping for a response. "We're detecting fluctuations in the readings," Holloway replied, his voice laced with concern. "Marcus, are you all right?" "Yes, but something feels wrong here," I answered, trying to steady my nerves. Taking a deep breath, I decided to proceed inside. The interior of the structure was even more disorienting. The light was diffuse, almost liquid, and the walls seemed to breathe with a slow rhythm. The temperature rose slightly, and I could hear a distant sound, somewhere between a chant and a whisper. It was alien, yet strangely calming. As I moved further, I noticed that the space didn't follow normal physical laws. Corridors twisted at impossible angles, and surfaces reflected images that didn't exist. Each step felt heavier, as if gravity itself were shifting around me. A flicker of movement in my peripheral vision made me freeze. Something was there, but disappeared the moment I tried to focus on it. My heart raced, and the tension in the air became suffocating. Suddenly, a figure emerged from the shadows. It was tall and slender, its edges blurred as if it were out of sync with the environment. Its eyes glowed with a silvery light, locking onto mine. I froze, unable to decide whether to run or confront it. "Who are you?" I asked, my voice trembling. The figure didn't respond. Instead, it raised a hand with long, thin fingers, pointing directly at me. The air around me seemed to compress, making it hard to breathe. My communicator screeched with an ear-piercing whine before cutting out entirely. And then everything went dark. When I regained consciousness, I was lying on a surface that felt soft and elastic, almost like moss, but with a springiness that absorbed my weight. The light around me had shifted to a deep violet hue, casting long, unsettling shadows across the environment. I sat up, rubbing my temples as I tried to focus. My head was pounding, and my memory of what had just happened felt fragmented, as if I had awoken from a vivid nightmare. The figure I had seen earlier was gone, but the sensation of being watched lingered. My communicator was silent, though the sensors on my suit continued to blink faintly, confirming that at least my vitals were still being monitored. I stood up cautiously, my muscles feeling unusually heavy, as if the air itself were pressing against me. Looking around, I realized I was no longer in the same place. The space I now occupied defied all logic. It appeared infinite, with no discernible walls or boundaries. Structures floated in the distance, shimmering as if made of liquid glass, appearing and disappearing in a slow, rhythmic cycle. The ground beneath me was unlike anything I had seen before, neither solid nor fluid, but something in between. It pulsed gently, as if alive. I reached for my communicator, speaking into the static. "Holloway, are you there? Can you hear me?" No response. Only the faint crackle of interference filled the silence. Taking a deep breath, I decided to move. My steps were slow and deliberate. Each one met with resistance, as if the environment itself were reluctant to let me proceed. In the distance, I noticed a sphere of light suspended in midair. It pulsated softly, casting a strange glow that seemed to beckon me. As I approached, the sphere's light grew brighter and an odd sensation crept over me. It wasn't fear, it was something deeper, a mix of awe and unease. The closer I got, the more my mind was flooded with images. They came rapidly, overwhelming my senses, visions of landscapes I had never seen, of beings that were both familiar and utterly alien. Snippets of voices filled my head, speaking in a language I couldn't understand, yet felt I should. Who are you?" I whispered, my voice barely audible. The sphere didn't respond, but its light intensified. The images in my mind became sharper, more vivid. I saw flashes of what could only be described as memories, memories that weren't mine. Cities that floated above clouds, creatures walking on fields of light, and a vast, shadowy figure standing at the center of it all. Then, as suddenly as they began, the images stopped. The sphere dimmed, then vanished entirely, leaving me alone in the violated lit expanse. I was left with more questions than answers. But one thing was certain: whatever this place was, it wasn't meant to be understood by a human mind. "Ah?" I said. The words came out triumphantly, giving me new hope. Determined, I continued walking, unsure of what I was searching for, but certain that I couldn't stop. Each step took me further into the unknown, and though I didn't know if I would ever return, I knew I had to find the truth. no matter the cost.